this is what you might be missing out that does not make your base come out like this. Now, to achieve a flawless base like this, there are a few things you need to pay attention to that you might not be paying attention to now. If you want to know what those are, keep watching. So the first thing you want to keep in mind if you want to have a flawless base is your hydration. You have to hydrate properly to get that flawless base that you want. So what I like to do is I like to start with a toner. I'm using the Skin 1004 Essence Toner. Now you want to apply this all over the face. When you're doing your skin prep, make sure you let the product sit in properly so you don't have streaks on your face when you want to apply foundation. Once this is dried down, I go in with a moisturizer. This is the APLB moisturizer. And I just apply this all over the face as well, making sure to rub it in properly. That's the first step to getting a flawless base. No streaks, no harsh lines, nothing, just a clean base. And then next we're going to go in with our sunscreen. This is the Aquamisha sunscreen. I like to use a ton of this because apart from the protection it gives me, it also moisturizes my skin and leaves it looking luminous, so it helps with foundation application. Then I leave this to dry up a bit, and now it's a bit clear. I'm going to go in and blend it into my skin well, so it blends in much more easily like this. Finally, we're going to go into priming. If you're a dry skin girl, use a hydrating primer like this, and if you're an oily skin girl, use a mattifying primer. I'm a combination skin, so I'm going to use a hydrating primer. So if you're a combination skin, you could use either a hydrating or a mattifying primer, anyone that works for you depending on what look you are going for. And I like to focus this to my T-zone, that is from here to here. So I apply this to my chin, I apply this to my cupids, my nose, and I take it into this part area, then I apply it to my forehead as well. So majorly to those areas where I get oily, these are the areas I focus my priming. And now once this is done, a very important part in getting a clean, flawless base is letting your skin prep absorb into your skin and dry down before going on to the next step. So after the skin prep is done, you want to let it sit in for a while before you go on to foundation or any other skin product. Going into foundation, the only way to get a clean base when applying foundation is to use foundation shades closer to your skin tone. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm mixing the NARS foundation in towel because it's not my shade with the Younger Beauty foundation in SMF8. To get my perfect shade. I'm gonna use my brush from the Morphe and Ariel sets in A24 brush. Whenever you want to blend, tap on the tool you want to use to blend, in this case the brush, into the product you want to blend, that's the foundation, to get some of that here before you then go in to blend it out, so that when you're blending this out, it does not take away from the foundation, rather it blends it in. So that's what we're trying to do here. So I like to focus most of the foundation to this lower part. Why? Because we're not going to apply concealers, bronzers, blushes to this area. This upper part is going to have bronzer, it's going to have blush, it's going to have concealer there. So I try to minimize the product I apply here in terms of foundation, and then apply a majority of my foundation to this lower part and take it into my neck as well. So don't forget to take it into the neck so it rhymes well. For the base product, you have to be strategic in the application so you get the best finish. Now I'm gonna take a little of that and then apply some to my nose, into my pupil, my chin, and then take what's left into my forehead. And for my forehead, I don't like to apply so much product there because the forehead is going to be full of bronzer anyway. So I just like to focus it only to the middle here, just to the midpoint, because I'm going to apply bronzer all over the sides. So I just like to keep my product minimal. Where I don't need products, I don't apply. So you can see I left my under eye because I don't apply foundation to my under eye because I don't want to end up having so much product underneath my eye. And once we're done with that, we're going to move into concealing. For concealers, you want to be strategic in your application. So I like to start off using a concealer that is one shade lighter than my skin tone first, something closer to my skin tone, before I go on to brighten with a brighter concealer. So I'm going to start off with this Too Faced Born This Way concealer in the shade Honey. I like to apply it to the inner and to the outer part of my face, just like so. So you want to use something close to your skin tone. And then I go into the T-zone, into my forehead, pupils, chin. And you don't also need a lot of concealer, just this is good. So once this is done, we're going to let this sit in to give a much more fuller coverage. So a tip is, if you want your concealer giving full coverage, leave it for a while to sit in before you go into blend. So that's what I'm going to do. And while we're letting that sit in, I'm going to go in with my bronzer. This is the Fenty bronzer in the shade Espresso. And for my bronzing, I like to do something called layering. This is really what will make your makeup stand out from the crowd. So what is layering? Layering is basically using two shades in the same color to give your makeup a much more seamless look, right? I start off with a darker shade and I apply this using the flap of my ear, the middle flap of my ear, and I just drag this down underneath my cheekbone, you can see. Then I stop there, and then I go in with a brighter shade. This is the Juvia's Place bronzer in the shade Amber, and then I use that to blend out this deeper shade. That way it gives a gradient. You can see how it went from light into dark. This is really what will give your makeup depth. So what I like to do is I like to just use that to blend out the deep shade, and then for my forehead I like to go in with the lighter shade. Then I just apply this around my temple here. I apply into my hairline. Then I go around the perimeter of my forehead, leaving just this middle bare. And then when you're blending in the bronzer to your forehead, try to blend it into your hairline. I'm not blending it into my hairline because it's obviously a lace I'm wearing, but you need to blend it into your hairline to give that natural, seamless look. And then I go into my chin, and then I use what's left on the brush here and here. I'm gonna do it in like a V shape, so to give my face that snatch. And once I'm done with this, I'm going in with a flat brush like this, and I'm going to use that to apply the bronzer to my nose. From my eyebrows, I just drag it down. Once I'm done bronzing up, I'm going to go in to blend my concealer. Now how do we blend the concealer? I'm going to take some of that concealer we applied on the face, just apply some to your hands. Then go into your damp beauty sponge. You want to make sure your sponge is damp, not wet, not dry. Make sure it's damp. And then tap some of that product you want to blend into the sponge. And I'm going to start blending from the T-zone in light tapping motion. Blend this out. And then when you're blending, try to maintain to the exact point that you applied instead of blending it outside the areas you applied, so you don't go losing direction of your concealer, right? So what you want to do is maintain it to the exact point that you apply, so it's easy for you to work with. Once this is done, we're gonna go into the other eye and then blend. For my under eye, I like to blend starting from the edges and then go inwards. So I'm gonna blend out the edges first, so there are no edges at all, and then I go inward and then I join both together in light tapping motion. Now why do we blend from the edges first? So we don't lose direction of the concealer that we applied, because if you go in and just blend it, you're going to end up getting your concealer all over the place, which would make your makeup lose its direction. So we're trying to maintain it to the exact points we apply. That's why we blended it out from the edges and then inward. Now once I'm done blending this, I'm going to go into my brightening concealer. This is the Huda Beauty concealer in Sugar Biscuit. You're going to use a concealer 3 to 4 shades lighter than your skin tone, and you want to use this only to the inner corner of your face. Just want to maintain these here. Now I'm going to go into blushing. I'm using the Nesamaris blush in Golden Hour. We apply it directly above that contour we did there. So where do I apply? I start from applying it on the cheekbone here. You know this shiny area here? I just tap some here and then take it upward, just like so. And then I take what's left on the nose, just a tad bit. I also take what's left into my temple a bit, so it looks cohesive. So when you're doing your base, you have to keep this in mind. You want everything to come together and look like one, instead of looking like 5 different separate entities, if you understand what I mean. That is what gives the seamless, flawless look. Once this is done, we're gonna go in and then blend the brighter concealer. I'm going to start blending from the edges as well. And when I'm blending, I like to focus most of my product, that is the brighter concealer, to the inner corner, because this is the area that needs that brightness. It's what will give your face that snatch, right? So you want to focus more of the brightness here. Take what's left on the sponge, then take it outward. Now I'm done blending out base products. I'm going to go in and blend out every harsh line on the face. Now this is what will actually make your makeup very seamless and making it stand out. You don't want to go in directly with powder and set like this. Once you go in directly with powder, your makeup will not look seamless, because what you set is what you get. So if you set harsh lines, you get harsh lines. So I'm going to blend out the harsh lines. For that, I like to use mostly what's left on the brush or sponge I've used before. Like for the forehead, I like to just go in with the bronzer part of the sponge, just what's on the sponge, and just around the highlighted area, I'll just blend it, and then it goes into the bronzer and it comes together as one. You can see that there are no harsh lines anymore. If I have harsh lines here, if it's too much, I'll just go into my foundation part of the sponge and just over that, tap it lightly to diffuse the harsh line. Then for my nose, I just go in with my sponge, press it a bit like this, and then I tap into some of that bronzer because I don't have any product here, and I press it together and then blend it in. And when you're blending it into the nose, try to make it as close as possible to the boob so it gives that slim look. Don't put it too far away from each other. If not, it will give your nose a very wide look. Because the purpose of doing this is we want a really slim look for the nose. So this is what I do. And I also like to go into my Cupid to contour because I like that overlined lip. And this is only for those that like the overline lip. If you don't like the overline lip, skip this process. I'm gonna go back into that highlighter part of my sponge and just tuck in between the highlight and the contour and just diffuse it. You can see that there are no harsh lines anymore. If your skin is not looking like this before setting, you will not be able to get a seamless base. So you want to make sure your skin is looking this clean before you even go in with any form of powder. For set, I'm going to be using the Laura Mercier translucent powder to set. I'm going to use a translucent powder that is a transparent powder or a powder that is closer to your skin tone but lighter. It has to be lighter for you to give that highlight, right? But it should be close to your skin tone first, right? And before you set, going to set your under eye, because our under eye is a bit delicate, you want to make sure you blend it out all the creases first. Going into that under eye and tapping, smoothing it out so it's blended out properly, because whatever you set is what you get. And then once you do that, immediately go in into your powder, tap off. Don't go in like this, tap off the excess, because it has to look smooth on the sponge like this. If it's not smooth on the sponge, it can't be smooth on your face. You want to tap it in gently, push that powder into your skin and make sure the powder is soaking up all the creams, right? And it's looking just like this. You can see how fine your under eye looks. And then once we're done with the under eye, we're going to go into the T-zone now. Set it from the forehead into the nose, pupil, and then the chin. And I like to use my beauty sponge to set because it gives this very natural, fine look. I don't like to use a powder puff or a brush because I feel like it gives more mattifying, it does not give natural. So I like to stick to using my damp sponge because the dampness of the sponge makes the under eye have this natural smooth finish. Now once we're done setting, we're going to go into bake. Baking is basically brightening or making your face, the areas where you want more pronounced, right? So setting is basically mattifying your creams with powders, which we just did now. Baking is brightening your face. So I'm going to go in with a larger chunk of the same powder, right? I like to use the same powder to bake. Tap off the excess as well, make it smooth. Then I focus the baking more to this inner corner. Remember, we want this area the most brightened, just like we did our brighter concealer. We focus it more here and then take what's left out. And also, I'm done setting the highlighted areas. I'm going to go in to set the bronzed areas. I'm using the Juvia's Place bronze palette in the shade Deep Dark. I like to set in the same manner that I applied the creams. That's basically the trajectory I'm following in this look. What I'm going to do is I use a fan brush like this, go into a deeper shade, just very lightly. I don't take too much because this is a bit too dark for me. So I just go in very lightly with a deeper shade of bronzer. And what I do is I apply it just on this lower part here, just like a line. Right, so it defines that area for me. Once I then go into the lighter shade, I'll go right above that and kind of try to use it to blend it into that deep shade so it has the same gradient it had when we did the creams. This is what really would make your makeup stand out and give this seamless finish, because if you go applying just one color without giving it that gradient, it's just going to look like one color is standing out from the other. So when you're doing your makeup, you want to make sure the colors are progressing into each other. That's really what gives your base a very, very seamless look. So I'm going to apply the lighter shade here, of course, just like we did the creams, or following the same pattern we applied the creams. And then also don't forget to take it into your hairline as well. And I take some here, just like in a V shape. Going into my eyeshadow blending brush, tap into some of that bronzer and just bronze up the nose. To set my entire face, I'm going to go in with the MAC Studio Fix powder. You want to use a powder that is your exact skin tone. And I'm using the A21 brush from the Morphe set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set just in the same manner I applied my foundation. I'm basically going to set my foundation, right? I start from this lower part. Why? Because we've not set this part at all. We already set the highlighted areas and we've set the bronze areas. This is the only part we've not set at all with powder. And so that's why I'm focusing most of the powder to this area. And I'll take what's left over this bronzer so it diffuses it, but it does not cover it up. You understand? So you want to make sure you're applying your product really strategically. That way, it gives you, that clean base And I'm going to take some, apply to the middle first, then take what's left to the side so we don't also cover up the bronzer as well. And then apply to the middle as well. Now for blush, I like to do layering as well for my blush. So because this is like an orangey look, I'm going to go in with an orange blush. I'm going to be starting with something that looks like a burnt orange, then I'll progress into a lighter orange. But I don't have a burnt orange yet, so I'm going to start off with this deep orange in the V Beauty Girls Night Out Max palette. That's what I'm using. I'm just using this. You want to start off with a deeper shade, then go into a lighter shade. Now I'm going to mix it with a bit of my bronzer from Fenty. This is the Mocha Mami bronzer from Fenty because I want it a bit deeper, right? So I'm just going to stipple this just back and forth. See, it's giving really deep. Then I'll take what's left into my temple as well. Then I'm going to go into the lighter shade of orange. This is the brighter orange. This is really what will give your makeup that seamless gradient. And I'm going to go right above where we applied the deeper shade and just swoop that kind of underneath the eye. So it gives this gradient from light to dark. That is what really makes your makeup come together well. Then take what's left a bit into the temple and into the nose as well. Once I'm done with it, we're going to go in and set the entire face. I'm using the Milani Make It Last Setting Spray. Just spray that all over. Now the final step I like to do after setting, that is the finishing touches, is actually going back in with powder, right? I use a brush like this. I'm going into my brightening powder. This is the Charlotte Tilbury powder in the shade 2. To brighten the under eye and give that mattifying look back into the under eye. I'm going to focus most of the brightness here just as we did the powder and the concealer and take what's left out so it blends in seamlessly with the blush. You can see how that made it diffused. So finishing touches are really important in makeup. That is literally what we make or break your makeup. So when you're done setting, you don't just leave it like that. You want to go back in with your powder to kind of bring back a little of that powdery look. I apply a little to my forehead and these areas as well. So I like my T-zone matte, especially my under eye, while I like the rest of these areas dewy. For highlighting, I like to go in with a dewy highlighter. This is the TM Essentials highlighter in the shade Obsessed. I just go in with my beauty sponge, tap into some of that product, and I just apply to my cheekbone, exactly to the bone of my cheek, and take it upward. And then take some into my temple here, so it elevates that shine. I also take some into my brow bone as well, so it gives like a C when I apply. You can see I like to use a dewy highlighter because it gives this glassy glow. And then I press in my beauty sponge and then apply to my nose here and here. That's all. Go back in with my eyeshadow brush that I use on my nose. Then I just try to bring this a bit more together, the highlighter, so it's thinner. So these are all the important things you need to add onto your makeup. Once you're done, that will bring the entire look together. That's basically how your base is supposed to be looking once you follow my step to the T. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one.